Prince Harry today said he lacked any support network after suffering with his mental health upon his return from Afghanistan, despite 6 years ago crediting his brother William with persuading him to seek therapy. The Duke of Sussex told Netflix documentary Heart of Invictus that coming home from the conflict in 2008 triggered the trauma of losing his mother Princess Diana, but no one around me really could help. This is despite Harry previously praising his brother Prince William and several close friends for seeking to persuade him to have therapy to deal with the impact of his mother's death. Speaking on a podcast with Bryony Gordon in 2017, he recalled how they told him, "Look, you really need to deal with this. It is not normal to think that nothing has affected you." Speaking to the Mad World podcast at the time, the Duke claimed his struggles with mental health were not Afghanistan-related, but were due to him having to process the death of his mother, Princess Diana, in the public eye 20 years earlier. His new 5-episode series features the 38-year-old prominently, with wife Meghan Markle appearing in only several scenes, and follows injured veterans as they prepare to compete at last year's Invictus Games. In the new series, Harry claims the death of his mother was never discussed, and it was only on his return from war that he became aware he was still traumatized from Diana dying in Paris in 1997 when he was aged 12. He also told the show, "Unfortunately, like most of us, the first time you consider therapy is when you are lying on the floor in the fetal position, probably wishing you had dealt with some of this stuff previously. And that's what I really want to change." In 2017, Harry revealed how he had shut down all his emotions for almost 2 decades after losing his mother, despite his brother telling him it is not normal to think that nothing has affected you. The Duke admitted that he struggled with violent thoughts and took up boxing as it's a really good way of letting out aggression, The Telegraph reported at the time. He added, "That really saved me because I was on the verge of punching someone, so being able to punch someone who had pads was certainly easier." The prince said that it was only in 2013, after returning from his second tour of Afghanistan, that he was able to speak up about the struggles and frustration he felt. He revealed it was conversations with his older brother and others close to him that helped him move forward, with William telling him, "Look, you really need to deal with this. It is not normal to think that nothing has affected you." Harry told Bryony Gordon, of the Mad World podcast, "I was a typical 20, 25, 28-year-old running around going life is great, or life is fine, and that was exactly it. And then, I started to have a few conversations, and actually all of a sudden, all of this grief that I have never processed started to come to the forefront, and I was like, there is actually a lot of stuff here that I need to deal with." He added, "I can safely say it, his trauma is not Afghanistan related. I am not one of those guys that has had to see my best mate blown up next to me and have to apply a tourniquet to both their legs. Luckily, thank God, I wasn't one of those people." The Duke said, "It's all about timing. And for me personally, my brother, bless him, he was a huge support to me. He kept saying this is not right, this is not normal, You need to talk to someone about stuff, it's okay. During the new Invictus series, Harry talks in a segment about post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, and trauma in war zones, giving insight into his own experiences. He says, "Look, I can only speak to my own experience, but from my tour of Afghanistan in 2012, flying Apaches, somewhere after that there was an unraveling. And the trigger for me was actually returning from Afghanistan, but the stuff that was coming up was from 1997 from the age of 12. Losing my mum at such a young age, the trauma I was never aware of. It was never discussed and I didn't really talk about it and I suppressed it like most other youngsters would have done. When it all came fizzing out, I was bouncing off the walls. What is going on here? I am now feeling everything instead of being young." The biggest struggle for me was no one around me really could help. I didn't have that support structure, that network or that expert advice to identify what was actually going on with me. Unfortunately, like most of us, the first time you consider therapy is when you are lying on the floor in the fetal position, probably wishing you had dealt with some of this stuff previously. And that's what I really want to change. Harry also speaks about trauma to Canadian indoor rower Daryl Ling, who tells him, "I am glad you've been through this stuff and know how we feel." The Duke then says, "I can't pretend to know what you've been through, but I had that moment in my life where I didn't know about it, but because of the trauma of losing my mum when I was 12, for all those years, I had no emotion, I was unable to cry, I was unable to feel. I didn't know it at the time. And it wasn't until later in my life, aged 28, there was a circumstance that happened that the first few bubbles started coming out, and then suddenly it was like someone shook and it went poof, and then it was chaos. My emotions were sprayed all over the wall everywhere I went, and I was like, how the hell do I contain this? I've gone from nothing to everything, and I now need to get a glass jar and put myself in it. Put myself in it. Leave the lid open, and my therapist said you choose what comes in and everything else bounces off. Army veteran Harry, who undertook 2 tours of Afghanistan, with one from 2007 to 2008 and the other from 2012 to 2013, also discusses how he never wanted to serve in the armed forces after he had children. The Duke, who is father to Prince Archie and Princess Lilibet, tells former Invictus competitors J.J. Chalmers and David Wiseman during a hike, "I've always had myself down as being the dad that I could never be serving while having kids. And you both did, right? It's never the individual signing up, it's the whole family signing up." Wiseman says his wife Lucy was pregnant when he was shot and injured in Afghanistan. In the Sussexes' latest project, as part of their £80 million deal with Netflix, Harry introduces himself as a father of 2, dog owner and husband. The Duke of Sussex is asked by an interviewer, "What's your name?" And he replies, "My name's Harry." The interviewer then says, "What do you do, Harry?" He replies, What do I do? On any given day? I am a dad of 2 under 3-year-olds, got a couple of dogs, husband. I am founding patron of Invictus Games Foundation. There's lots of hats that one wears, but I believe today is all about Invictus. Also in the show, Harry and Meghan were seen in a private moment together before a speech at the Salute to Freedom Gala for Veterans in New York in November 2021, in which the Duke can be heard confiding in the Duchess about his nerves. Harry is heard saying, "We haven't done this for a while. My heart is like digidiga-giga-giga." He paces around nervously backstage. All 5 episodes of the docuseries were made available at 8 m UK time, midnight California time, following prior speculation that it had been cancelled by Netflix. The show has been released ahead of next month's Invictus Games to be held in Dusseldorf from September 9 for 8 days and attended by Harry and Meghan. Harry is its executive producer and the show forms part of the Sussexes' deal with Netflix, with their main output so far being last year's controversial Harry-Meghan documentary, which included a series of swipes at members of the royal family. The 6-part series last December saw the couple accuse Kensington Palace of lying to protect Prince William. Pressure is on the Invictus documentary to be a ratings success, after the couple's other lucrative media deal with Spotify ended in June following just 1 season of Meghan's podcast Archetypes. Netflix unveiled its first trailer for the series on August 16. It comes after Netflix paid £3 million for the film rights to Carly Fortune's romantic novel Meet Me at the Lake, which Harry and Meghan will produce for the service.